Okay, we're back. So with this video, I've actually dropped the bit rate and the frame rate here to test to see if I can record at lower values and still get the same quality. I've been experimenting with the video recording software here a bit. The video which is still being uploaded, which is dev video 32, was uploaded with 6,000 bit rate and 60 frames per second at my default resolution. 2.3 gigabytes for that hour-long video. This one we're going to test is at 3,000 bit rate and 30 frames per second, so half the value I was at. Because we're doing dev stuff, I don't need high frame rate. So we're going to toy around with that, and hopefully I get my video size down because my brother is throwing a fit right now because I have to take up an hour of his time to upload videos when our upload speed should be able to handle this. After all, Spectrum just upgraded my internet from the 20 megabytes down to 60, and with that my upload speed should have went from 2 to like 10-ish. So I should be able to handle this, but unfortunately not. Anyways, that aside, what we're going to be working on, from last video we just got items rendering done. I'm going to work on armor sets now. So I've already exported the armor. This is our texture sheet from the thing. I went ahead and just grabbed in my old armor set and just segmented it out. Got the chest, head, backpack, and this thing. Now there was no backpack on the original entity because the base entity doesn't have a backpack. I am considering just segmenting out the backpack into its own little sheet because it's an item and not part of the armor. The armor would be your head, your chest, and your this thing, as well as your legs, torso, everything else that would be in the frame. And this would be part of the armor set. So when you put a suit on, which the suit is all of your armor pieces put together, with the exception of the backpack, because the backpack is not actually part of the armor set, then it would use up this whole entire sheet for rendering. So we're going to close that real quick as that's already exported and that's already handled with. We now just got to set up loading of it. Now I've gotten rid of our variables where we're storing our armor. We're going to store all of our armor up into the armor set thing. And we're just going to create a new armor set here. So you see new armor set and we just need to go... Well, actually we don't need to do anything with this. So it's going to automatically put the armor set up into the map here for us. You know what? We can keep track of our items all together. That's a junior development position role. Huh. I get these emails all the time. I'm going to open it up on my screen and read it while I'm typing. I am sort of looking for a job, even though I kind of want to just do this for the rest of my life. I keep hitting the realization every so often that I kind of can't. We're gonna keep track of our items this way. This will be a little easier. And, oh yeah, I forgot a comma here. So we're still going to store in the item array here, but the item array storage is done here. And we're just going to get rid of everything but void off this list. And we're just going to keep track of our items in that hash map. That'll save a little bit of time. Not a huge amount. And by time, I mean development time, as in when it comes to CPU and RAM, it actually is less efficient than what I was using before. Because if you have a static variable, you may use a little bit more RAM to store that static variable, but your access time is quicker. In this case, we're going to go with a little bit longer access time. The access time is not going to really change much. We are going to use more RAM to store everything, though. Is a hash map has to store the object, the object's hash. Actually, no, the object has to be generated, but it does have an array, and the array is a lot larger than what this is, and whatever, we'll figure it out later. It's not important. It's not a big enough significant change in system memory and RAM to really care about. What I'm more concerned about is if we need to keep calling like get on it, because we'll have to create a string to get from this list, and we don't want to keep doing that, so we'll have to figure out some way to do that, because that'll junk a whole bunch of RAM. We're going to create a list here for our armor set. My brain just failed there. I need to do it. It's a new array list. Been at this since 4 o'clock in the morning working on things. I've only been working on this game here since a little bit after 2. But yeah. So we need to make our armor set here. So we need to go list.add new armor. And this needs to be name plus helm. So we're going to be armor set 1 helm is what this will be. And we just need to repeat that. So we need to get our helm, our chest, legs, boots, and gloves. I feel like there's an easier way to do this. Yeah, there's totally an easier way to do this. So we already have all this right here. So we're going to loop through our enum. So we're going to go for armor slot armor slot dot values. And we're just going to go two lowercase is how we're going to do it. So we're going to get rid of this, and then we just go slot two lowercase. Slot.name dot two lowercase. And we'll do some other things for this. But what this will do is we'll pre-register our suit value, so every armor set will have a suit to it automatically. And then we'll have the rest of our data there. The only thing this is not going to do for us is we have to do our UVs ourselves still manually, unless we store our UVs in our armor set, which might do, might not do. We'll figure that out. But that registers our armor set. Then we need to go armor sets.put name and then list. That then guarantees we know what armor goes to what. I need to reverse this a little bit. So I need to be able to access the suit. So we're keeping track of suit value here. It's not really important. That data is probably never actually going to be used. But I do need to, in the armor itself, tell me what suit it is. It's not actually what I wanted. I want this class. So public string armor set. So we're going to set that value. So to be armor.armorSet equals name. So we need to keep track of that, because what we'll do is this will be stored in our render object. So we'll go over here to item render, and we have an armor set here. So we'll go, okay, this is the render rec we want. And then each piece of armor will have a texture object to render with, I think. Maybe. Still haven't quite figured out how to handle this. Okay, this needs to be a texture object. Okay. Because we want to store the texture object, because then we're going to pass the texture object into our rectangle render. Because that's just how our code's set up at the moment. I can get rid of that. Yeah, this will work. And we just need to store items is the last thing we need to do. So name to item. So under here, name to item dot put name and then item. So names still need to be unique per item, which shouldn't be too hard. Because actually this will be item dot unique name is actually how this will be stored. Unique ID. Cool. That'll save me a bit of time there. And then we'll get that registered. And then armor set texture actually needs to be loaded in the entity. This will be all inventory code. So item render is only going to be used for rendering inventory items, and we may have a separate one for rendering items dropped on the ground, but that'll come later. I need to figure out where my render code is. It's up here. So char render. I'm going to rename this actually. This will be my entity render. And then we need to store a texture set. And we do have a variable for armor already stored. So we can dispose of things. This is literally what we're using it for. So we're storing body, head, we get our sheets. This is our body sheet. And yeah, so here, as you can see, I'm creating meshes for UVs. This is literally what we're going to have to do for every single armor set. So we're going to have to go for something, and then this will be items.armorsets. I really only need the key values here. Actually, no, I got to put the armor up here. So I'm going to need both. So this would be map.entry, maybe string.list armor. I can hear my CPU on my computer freaking out because OBS is eating up more CPU than it normally does. It's up like 25%. Okay, this will be, we'll call it armor set actually is what we need to call it just to keep consistent. And then we need to do entry set here to loop for our loop value. So we're going to loop through all these. Then we got to figure out what kind of armor we are. We did not store that, so we're going to have to go public armor slot type is how we'll store this. We'll go ahead and set that value to string unique ID. Okay, string. We're going to have to pass in some other data here. So string set name. So this needs to be set name plus. I really should be using a string builder for this. It's a little faster, but it doesn't really matter much. And then we got to pass in the slot type. So armor slot type. And the reason I'm doing this is I can set these two values up above to final so they can't be changed. It's always concerning when I go to make things. It's like, oh, what if somebody like screws with my stuff and then decides they want to make my my code not do what it's supposed to do and go through and change things, and then they'll screw things up. So in order to prevent that, you set things final so that way somebody goes here and goes, oh, these are never meant to be changed. If you want to make a new armor piece, you want to change your armor, delete the old one, or add the new one, and that's how you do it. So we need to go back to our items class. And then we gotta pass in some stuff here. So name this lowercase. And then we've got to pass in. I don't know how we got away with. Oh, that's how we got away with that. So string set. So it'll be set armor, and the last one is armor slot type. And type goes right there. So name, cool, and then we want to go slot right there. So that'll finish that off, so that gives us all our data. So then when we come back to here, and we're actually looping through this, we know what the armor type is, so we don't have to sit here and guess, because we're going to have UVs, and UVs are going to have to match all the position data. Right now we're going to do chest and head, because I already have the UVs for those two. And I'll do backpack later. So we need another for loop. So armor, and then this will be armor set dot get value. So we're going to need a texture. So we're going to copy this real quick. So texture equals. All textures are cached, so texture loader cache, so they're done that way. This will be armor slash, and this will be armor set dot get key. So the key is the name of the armor set in the file system. I probably will add a way to transition the texture file name so that your armor set name doesn't have to match your texture name, but reality, all these keys need to be consistent. So when I go to the localizations are consistently matching with your texture name, with your item name, everything else. It's not too hard to make sure these match each other, and right now that's just how we're going to do it. So I'm going to go with armor dot type equals armor type dot chest, and then the other one is head, because those are the only two we're going to add textures for at the moment. Everything else we're going to hit here later, because one, we don't really have, well, we have gloves. You already saw those in the sheet, so gloves are right there. Then we have arms. Arms are part of the chest plate. So those will be rendered with the chest plate, but then the gloves will be rendered separately. Then we got head, and then we got backpack. So we don't have leggings and we don't have boots, so we don't need to care about those. And we're not going to do the gloves right now because I don't have arms rendering. Arms are going to require some kind of animation system because we're going to need to move the arms to hold the guns and stuff, which means we're going to have to start keeping track of data to hold weapons. For the moment, I'm going to pull off. What's the name of the game I'm thinking of? I bet Grogger plays it a lot. It's essentially a game where your character is like a little circle, and then his head's a circle, and then the gun just sticks out of his right shoulder. It's a survival game. I'm trying to remember. I just can't think of what it's called right now. Oh well, it's not important. But for this, we're going to do renders.put. We want the armor. And then for this one, we copy the first one, which is the body. So that all these UVs should match each other. UV scale. We do need to get the scale properly. So we're going to recycle that scale value, just so we don't have to make a new variable. And this will be texture.width. Okay, so that scales our stuff for us. And yeah, we just need to do the next one here. And we can just copy this here and then replace it right here. Theoretically, we could just do a render rect value set up here and then do that way, but it works. This should work out pretty well. And then what we need to do down here, or actually up here when we go to render, we got to figure out what armor he's wearing. So I'm going to go if entity dot, oh, actually, entity instance of, I guess entity living is how we're going to do this. And we'll just put an else statement here. And I'm gonna do this real quick, and I'm just gonna copy this, put this here, and we're gonna get rid of the body off here. So if you're not human, I'm just gonna render a head there. We'll put some kind of other marker here, like something else, because we're gonna have other entities in here. We'll have like chest, because everything that has logical data on it is going to be an entity. Everything that's not logical data is going to be a tile. Tiles won't have logic on them, so if we want something that has more to it, we're going to just use entities. I thought about using tiles that have extra metadata on them, but when we go to the metadata, I'm literally going to keep track of the subtype of the tile and then the borders on the tile. So like if you have like a border on the left, right, top, whatever, those will be all tracked, and that'll be tracked in the map and then saved in the map. But we're going to render this, so we want to get the entity livings, so we don't have to complicate our code here. This keeps our code from getting extra long by just really quickly grabbing the entity. So we go if living dot get armor. Now, how do we store our armor? I don't think I've actually put away to armor. No, we do have an inventory armor. Okay, get inventory. We don't initialize it. I don't think. Oh no, it is initialized, so we just need to go public inventory armor get armor return inventory armor. Or is it armor inventory? That's just called armor. Wow. I'm uninventive. So you want to go get armor dot. We want to just figure out if we have armor on. All this is private, so just copy this method real quick and then change it. This is where I said a couple videos ago that I already have inventory code for a lot of the stuff that it isn't tested, but it should work because it's really simplistic. We just want to go has armor. Get rid of all these delete methods here. So these are deleting our stuff. And then we want to go if I'm going to go if boots doesn't equal null. And then, yeah, we're just going to have to do this by hand. Gloves doesn't equal null. We can actually change these out. So this will be return gloves doesn't equal null. And this will return boots doesn't equal null. This is the boring side of code. And of course, when I coded this, I decided to be lazy, and I just went like, hey, let's just make a variable for everything, and then we don't have to worry about arrays, we don't have to worry about indexing, we don't have to worry about keeping track of it, because we have to keep track of the index anyways, if we ever had anything. And I think this is actually before I actually had the array of slot types, is when I started making this, and I transitioned to slot types at some point. And suit doesn't go null. Okay, so we go has armor. So I'm going to go has armor, armor slot, and we want to check chest. So if we have chest armor, we want to render the chest armor. If we do not have the chest armor, we want to render the body. Same thing for the head. This is literally like the laziest approach to doing this. There's so many better ways to do this. But we want to get our armor set real quick. Actually, there's no way to easily do that. We're gonna keep track of some booleans here. So boolean rendered head equals false. Boolean rendered body equals false. The reason I'm doing this is because this isn't going to work properly. So we're going to go if rendered body, and then we're going to take this here because we want to render the body first, then the head. So we're going to make sure we move this. If rendered head. So if we didn't render these two, then we're going to render it. So we're going to call these backup renders / no armor renders. Okay. And then this needs to be the head. Because the reason why I'm doing this is I have to go like armor equals living, now get armor dot, and then we're going to get, and then we're going to call this. So we're going to have a get method in there somewhere. And say for some reason this return we have armor, but then at the same time this returned that we some reason actually don't. Some reason the code breaks. So I'm going to go if armor doesn't equal null. We then want to figure out what our armor sheet is here. So we're going to go render rec. I don't get why that does it every single time. Is when I go to do that, it auto does that. Whatever. We'll call it rec, and we're going to renders, and then we're going to go get armor. So if this is null, then we don't want to render it either. So we have this nested loop system. Now, if I didn't do this, every single time we had an else here, so if we did like else down here, I would have to call this render code in the else statement. Like every single spot we had an else statement, we would have to call that, and just had some insulation fall out of my ceiling. What the hell? Oh well. Moving on. So this will just be rect.render and x.y.z.rotation.scale. The interesting thing is, eventually we're going to have to store a separate rotation for the head and body, but the body rotation is always going to be this rotation value, so yeah. So this is going to be like entity, I'm going to go pre-store this real quick. So yeah, we'll just store rotation in the code here. Yeah, that'll work. And then down here, we'll just make a getter for it. That way, we don't have to worry about it later. I'm probably not going to do rotation anytime soon, but we'll have the code there. So this will be entity.get rotation. And then what the head would be is it'd just be the head rotation plus body rotation. And then math max to make sure it's not outside 360. So we got this code. We need to create a get method. Create get method down here. How this will work is we're just going to copy this, and then we're going to change this to slot. Change these to just return the actual armor. And I believe we are storing our armor inside of item state objects. Okay, so we got to change that. Okay, so we got a get call here, and we're going to change this to, yeah, we're just going to do this real quick. We're going to go get slot doesn't equal null. Makes that a little simpler. This is an item state, so we're going to copy this code here. Item state equals this. So for those familiar with Minecraft, an item state is pretty much an item stack, except it's got a little bit more data attached to it. So we want to state dot item. And well, shoot. Do this real quick. Item equals this. And then we go item instance of armor. And then we just cast it. Actually, we don't even need to cast them. I'm going to do it anyways. Hash maps are pretty intelligent. For starters, for those not familiar with how this works, these are generics. When you compile the program, those disappear. How it actually works is anytime you go to access it, it just puts a cast in front of it. So when you call a get call, what you're actually calling is get object, so the key. So this is the reason why if you actually use a hash map, it may fail to function properly, and you may be passing objects into that you can't get. I actually kind of wish they would use their generics here, because there's only going to be one key type, and that's armor. I have seen a few people make their own versions of hash maps just to fix that, but it works. So this should render, and we just need to repeat this whole entire process down here. Actually, we don't need to repeat any of this. Uno momento. So list armor slot. I had a really cool idea in my head, but we're going to try this. So we know we almost always have a consistent armor system. So we're going to go for armor slot, and then we want armor slot dot values. We're literally going to go, okay, if we have this piece of armor, we're going to grab it. So we're going to go, okay, has armor, get armor, is instance of armor, and we call a get call here. And then if we render it, we then go rendered slots dot put or dot add, put the slot here. And one last thing we need to do is if slot equals armor slot dot suit, then actually we needed to do a whole process here. There's a different step to this. So we need to go if has suit and suit doesn't equal null, because if the suit's got to render it a different way. So armor slots. So if we have a suit, then we've got to render it differently. And then we want to go pretty much else at this point, because what we'll do is we'll add a null check at the same time. Yeah, we don't need a null check there, because this isn't going to happen, to be honest. And then we're going to go here, and then we're going to go slot does equal suit. Slot does not. There we go. And then we just go down here, and this will be if render slots dot contains armor slot dot suit, and then we want to make sure it doesn't contain suit and doesn't contain body. So there's two conditionals here. Actually, we can recycle the global conditional here for both of these, and then we can make a sub-conditional for each. That way we're only checking it once. So this will be chest, and this will be head. And that should work. That means we don't have to we didn't have to repeat that piece of code for all pieces of the armor. We just have to do it only once. And up here, we're going to have to do a whole complex render system. So to do complex render system. No, we actually don't need a complex render system here. What we need this is the tricky part. We'll do this later. To do implement. Because how we would do it, and I don't really feel like doing it because we don't have armor suits, is that you just cycle through all of your sub-armor pieces. I don't even know if I spelled that right. That just looks so wrong. We're gonna check this. Oh, wow, my video is finally uploaded for that other video. Man, it took a while. I guess that is correct. Let's check our recording time real quick. We're at 31 minutes. Awesome. So this is going to cycle. If we went to go do this, what this would do is it's going to cycle this code, except instead of calling get at slots, we would be calling armor set. So you know how we do register down here? We go through the armor sets. That's what we would do up here. We would just loop through the armor sets. So this works. Now we just have to equip our entities with armor. So we're going to go up to the game. Game. Here it is. And we got to fix this too. So we need to go, and this will be get medkit, and we got to create a get method. So we store in a hash map. Yeah, medkit's how we spell it. Shoot, that'd be actually item.medkit. I'll also make sure I spell it correctly. Item.medkit. And this will be down here, will be item.grenade. And we'll go back here. Oh no, it's not wrong method. With this method, grab our grenade, put it here, and we go back and we fill out our method. So this method is literally pretty simple. We want to call name the item dot get, and then we want pretty much name, and we'll pass that name here. So we got a get method. We got to get from ID as well. So we could technically have passed in ID 0 and 1, but we didn't want it, or 1 and 2 because 0 is actually void. What we're going to do here is if name to item dot contains key name, return void. Cool. So that'll prevent us from null pointing at any given time. We then want to set our armor on our characters. We'll do this in the same area. So yeah, we'll just do, and then we'll get armor. Get armor dot, there's no set slot. So we're going to call set, and then we'll need slot, or armor slot dot head, and then we'll need to call, we can actually reuse this method real quickly, we just have to type a lot more in. So be armor.armor1.helm. And we need to create a set method, create set method. And we copy this, copy that, put it here. And this needs to be an item state. And that needs to be slot. You know, actually, I forgot. It's not called set, it's called equipped. We already have a method for this. Can equipped and then equipped. So we're gonna forcibly equip the item. So call this and then call equipped, and it's called equipped item state slot and then that. Okay, so we switch this. This would be a new item state. Just passing the item right now. And this would be true. And then we'll repeat this for the chest plate. So this should be chest, and we just got to change the slot to chest. Cool. So this should work. We're going to put a thing here just to make sure that our item.get calls are correct. Okay. So how do we do this? Actually, we'll just put it here. Okay, item.grenade. Cool, it's contained. I did not find an armor helm. What did we call it? So yeah, we did call it armor 1. So it should be item.armor. Because we're not adding it to the named convention list. So, no, wait, new armor should add it to there. Okay, so new armor dot unique ID dot item. My Yahoo Mail client never loaded too. Oh well. Let's see. Unique ID and then item. That's something's not working correctly. If we call this set name unique, so yeah, set name dot unique ID. If we come back here, unique ID should be slot dot name to lowercase. So head and chest. Oh yeah, it's called head and chest. It's probably why I can't find helm is I misspelled it. Or I put something different in here. So yeah, item.armor. So we're going to stop this real quick and we're going to re-hit it up. Okay, so that's item medkit. Cool. Item.grenade, cool. The reason why we saw the game, by the way, load, why I'm still doing this, is it's multi-threaded, so the game thread is actually still running. Or the display thread is running differently. Okay, this all works. Then I need to go to here and remove that debug and hit play. Okay, we didn't render any armor. So we're going to have to figure out what we messed up. We don't need game, we don't need any living, we don't need items, we don't need armor. We need this code. Boom. So we got an entity character whose name is Bob. Cool. Entity living? Okay, we don't have a suit equipped. Okay, head, get slot. Instance of armor. Pull the rec is null. Okay. So something's wrong with our load method. So this is what we need to do. So close this real quick. And then we want to call debug. Okay, so we've got a texture. Cool thing it found the texture. Is that working? Okay, what is this game object? Game object armor.suit. Cool. Okay, next object is armor.head. Here's one of our goof ups. So one of these is the head, which is probably this one. Okay, reload that real quick. Shoot, I need to reload the whole game again because I accidentally fumbled there. So run debug. Okay, texture is good. Our scale is good. Why didn't that select this? Oh yeah, it suits the first one. Then head's the next one. Okay, I got head. Okay, put it under there. Cool. That means we should have rendered data. And why did it not set up correctly here? If we call render.get, and we're calling render.put here, we're passing in the armor object. And we should be using the same armor object to call get up here. Just hit load and see if it's working. We're not getting anything working here. Okay. So the entity we're currently trying to render is entity Bob again. Game object equals armor dot head. It looks like the same armor object. So if we scroll this up, because this is how we're gonna have to read this real quick. If we open up renders, we're rendering item 15, okay, right there. So those two items match each other. Exactly, so there shouldn't be any differences there. Yet when we call get, we actually do have a render. So there is a render rectangle there. If we call this, we call that, and we add to render slots. Cool. And then we're rendering the chest. Okay, so we've rendered that. Of course, we don't have anything else on. So go here. Okay, so we haven't rendered that. Haven't rendered that. So we shouldn't be rendering anything. We hit play. Where's Bob at? Bob's right here. Bob is still rendering like he is wearing normal armor. So what did I mess up? Probably the texture. So armor set that key. And here's our armor. So why we look like a normal NPC if we're wearing armor? Because we're using the wrong texture. That's why. Here's the problem. So we hit run again, and we should have armor, and we should be closing this video out here after this. There we go. We have our armor. Look at that. That's procedurally added. So that means we can add as many armor sets as we want here. I get the arms rendered. It'll look a lot nicer. Get some guns in here. It'll look even better. And then I just kind of work on the texture so they don't look like band-aids, because that's what they just look like. I have to spend more time studying what the human body looks like and how helmets look like on people to try to get a top-down view. I'm more than likely probably going to open up something like Source Engine or something that's got an actual, somewhat accurate humanoid character in it, because my experience has been with Minecraft, and this is what a Minecraft character Steve looks like from a top-down. He looks like a band-aid. So anyways, I'm going to close the video out, and I'll make more of these here later, but yeah.